Everyone got a copy of that? I will get onto that shortly. Let's deal with the rates issue first while everyone's still traipsing in. So that's on page 57. And what I can read, a relatively straightforward...
Chairman, I only have one question. I presume it's been legaled like Christchurch didn't?
Mr. Jury, is he...
Subject to that, I'd move if nobody wants to ask another question.
There are no other questions. Happy to second that, Councillor Scott. Any discussion? I'll put that motion in. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Right, let's go back to the... not sure where everyone else is on their way. The set of recommendations for the action items, which I don't seem to have in front of me at the moment. Was there a spare copy down there, Paul? How many copies was there?
I thought I'd given you one.
Well, you may have done. Hang on, let me see. Okay, let's go back to the action items, the beginning of the paper, on page 5. Now, Councillor Douglas had, I don't seem to have a copy of it, unfortunately, but... Right. So, yes. Yeah.
And that is item 6. Items that 1.4 effectively provide the basis of a transition drought mitigation policy pending a proposed plan change. Is it possible for us to actually act outside a plan change with introducing things that could affect minimum flows, etc., which have been agreed on by public consultation through a statutory process?
No, and so my report would traverse all of the options the Council has.
I would actually, with respect, Mr. Chairman, ask that that be deleted.
Mr. Chairman, I'd happy to do that, and it was the whole point of this is not to affect in any way, and indeed it can't, the statutory role in the statutory rule. It is simply trying to find what I call workaround options, some of, well, all of which have been canvassed broadly, and there are others that I know are potentially available. This is, sorry Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm not trying to tell Council anything. I'm just trying to signal in the minute, if you like, the sort of things that this report's going to canvass, and it does say, among other things.
Just so I'm clear, so you're proposing that we receive the report, which we normally do, and you would like these items added to the action item on water allocation?
I guess I'm used to a different way of working than this Council, so that's part of the problem, and you've seen it already today. The history, my professional background is that whatever is the minute is what happens, not what is vaguely in a report or vaguely in an action item. And this is just tightening up what we are looking for in the report that we're asked for. That's all, and it is not exclusive. It is simply say, these are the sort of things. Now, there's not one thing up there that has not been canvassed either today or in previous conversations, but it's putting in one place, these are the sort of things we're looking at. So I'm not trying to
no, I realise
do
that.
anything...
But with all due respect, to have this added to that as the action item, which I think would work, it's not. It means it's back in front of us every month until it's dealt with, which is better than a set of minutes because they get approved and they're gone.
Mr. Chair, I don't know where we're up to with it. My concern is that we've got an action item process, and we now have this great expansion of that process into something. It's morphed into something different, in my view. I'm happy to consider a report an action item that is ultimately handled either through a committee and then on to council, and I think some of those issues can be dealt with there. So I'm just curious to know if we adopt this approach of amending, adding, and if you like, expanding greatly the brief to produce our report for subsequent discussion by council. I'm just curious as to what then becomes of our action item process.
My understanding, and I'd welcome input from others actually, but the action item process is about making sure that nothing falls through the gap, and I'm pretty sure that's your intention, Councillor Douglas.
Yes, sir, it is, but I'm also giving a sharper edge to the officer's report of these are the items we think we want to see, but there can be others. I don't think we should be confined by our own rule. This is not a standing order that we're dealing with here.
Right.
This is just a general rule. And although I might be pushing the boundary, and you've already chided me for doing a couple of it already, why not? Why are we hidebound?
See, well, how do we deal with this now? You've proposed this. Do you wish to move this as...
I wish to move it to where we've got, because the whole thing is sitting on the table, I think, is that item 1 was that the report be noted or something. I haven't got
Received,
exactly,
yeah.
Received, sorry. And B will be, in respect to item 6, 1, 2, 5.
And you have a seconder for that? You happy to second it, Councillor Gilbertson? Right, well, let's go. You can now speak to it.
Spoken enough to it, Mr. Chairman. It's not actually just... This is not like a normal debate in the sense of a policy position we're taking or a decision. This is simply adding something to the conversation that we're going to have come back. It sits in the record in a very formal way. And that's what I'm seeking from the council. I'll be a little disappointed if people knock it out simply on a procedural thing that doesn't fit into the history of these things.
Well, it's here now. Sorry, it's here now and to be debated. Councillor Gilbertson?
It's slightly unusual, but the whole idea of getting new councillors on board is to have new thoughts and new ideas, and I don't think this is too radical, and I can't see any downsides, so I'm very happy to crank it up, let it go through, and it's an information item if nothing else, so I'm happy to support it.
Councillor Curtin.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd just be interested to know the report is coming back through which process and when. Probably more due date has got on the November the 13th, but is that going through to the Environment Committee? Yeah. And subsequently to... So a report comes to the Environment Committee?
That was the intention.
What's up there is asked, has identified a higher urgency, and particularly ahead of the growing season, or the irrigation season. And I think Mr. Maxwell had already indicated in earlier discussions that he was, prepared to get that report out sooner rather than later. So we were thinking before the end of this term of council, which really only leaves council meeting at the end of September, to be able to do that.
That's right. Says council.
Mr. Chairman, we are spelling out, and it says that it must cover these points, but there are lots of points that it doesn't, and this Councillor Douglas has said it's not exclusive. However, he has referred in the earlier stages of this to the submissions around the annual plan, but there is a history to this. There's a history to water user groups. There's a history how much council has actually spent on setting up and supporting water user groups. There's a history as to how well they have performed. And I think the report, I'd like to see that report that actually covers some of these wider issues. There's a history to a lot of this information that goes on that it's all very well in times of need to suddenly jump up and say, well, I want to find an answer to this, but there are other times when there hasn't been that degree of openness and cooperation. So the whole thing actually needs to be put within an overall picture and an overall balance and an understanding of the issues. So I'm not going to dictate to staff what they put in the report, but I'm sure that they will actually look at some of the wider issues around than what is actually coming from a very small area of need. I can tell you cases going back over many years of extreme farmer hardship in any of our catchments, up in the Ruataniwha, and with some disastrous health outcomes. So don't let's just think that this is a one-stop shop. This is actually about responding in times of need and working together. And I guess that some of the options will be for people to solve their own problems.
Just before I take any others, the last point on there, did you 1 to 5? Yeah, 6 is gone. Yeah, I thought so.
Just to Councillor Scott's comment.
You can sum up at the end. Councillor Rose.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is interesting, and indeed it probably is a new process, and in itself I suppose it doesn't matter to have new processes, and as Councillor Gilbertson said, it can be seen as quite a healthy thing. I will support it, but I must say, Mr. Chairman, I'm reluctant to see that the action items, the reporting of action items, go this way. I see complications ahead of us if we develop a process along these lines. However, it is a matter that has been identified with some urgency, and the fact that staff now are proposing to bring this back to us in the council meeting in September sort of indicates that to us. So, yeah, I will support the adding of this resolution, but to the resolution. But it's not something, Mr. Chairman, that I would welcome or wouldn't like to be setting a precedent on it.
Other speakers? Councillor McGregor.
Well, I agree totally with the sentiments expressed and the concerns which are pretty widespread, and I think that the council is fully aware of the fact that there's some tremendous challenges here that have got to be worked through with difficulty, and perhaps like Councillor Rose, I'm not sure that this is the right avenue to pursue it, but because I agree with the sentiments expressed, obviously I'm on record as doing that, well, I'll support it.
Other speakers? Councillor Dick.
Any item that is agendaed is able to be discussed and deliberated on, and it's agendaed, and it essentially is asking for a report, which is the right thing, and it's describing some parameters that should be considered in that report, and it's also been noted that it's not exclusive, so staff can add as appropriate. So I say fine, I'll support it.
Wish to sum up?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in part the conversation goes back to the previous debate about stock, and I'm talking about not the issue but the principle. And I wanted more information on the stock thing simply because if it was then a report back, it would be on all of those issues we'd identified. But what we did on this matter is we just said call for a report. If we'd called for a report which would cover 1 to 5, then what I'm talking about wouldn't have been necessary. Can you see how the circular process goes? The word on the second line, inter alia, perhaps I'm getting a bit too smart for myself, simply means among other things, and that was why I mean it's not restricted to anything there. This came from a submission or a series of submissions to the annual plan. I respect Councillor Scott and Councillor Curtin's comments about there's a lot of history here which will be canvassed, not all of which I have the doubtful benefit of knowing, I guess. But these are the ones that are right up on the point right at the moment. And I believe we have to signal things as well as do things. And it also both applies to all catchments, because there's no catchment specific commentary made here, and it says in part in there, it applies to, it respects existing rules. It actually says that. So I'm not trying to push any boundary at all. I welcome the opportunity to hear Mr Maxwell's report in due course and coming, as he said, to the next council meeting, and let's get going on it. Thank you.
So just a request there for the minutes. I need you to confirm it's exactly as it's set up there.
Oh, I see. You changed the action number 2 in relation to action item, and I didn't know the number because I can't work out the numbering system.
There isn't a number for the actual action item. That's
Oh,
why I
well,
put
then-
what the text was.
Or the action item in respect to whatever it was called.
Yeah,
That report.
Yep.
Whatever that report.
It's about-
that covers
This
it.
is exactly the wording from the action
I
item.
understand that. I'm sorry. In relation to action item, there was a dot in my original. Oh, sorry, I see you put it in. I apologise. Okay, I see what you mean. Yep. Yeah, I see what you've done. Yep. Thank you.
Comfortable with that? Seconder? Just so we're clear before I put it. Okay, I'll put the motion, and all those in favour please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Thank you.